All right. Mr. Gurley, you got both the invocation and the pledge this morning.
Yes, sir.
And then we have approval of the minutes. And I know we got some adjustments to the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things right now. One, under special presentation, Sarah Stout with East Point will be here, and she'll make a presentation with your approval right after Alan Fitzpatrick with Open Broadband. And we do have a proclamation that we would like to put under consent, which is the proclamation, the Welcome Home Vietnam Veteran Proclamation.
And that's going where?
Consent.
Under consent. What that's about, just to let you know, the Bill Graham's group, the Patriots Coalition, contacted me and asked that we have a resolution. It's the same one we've done for years past, because I think it's on the last Thursday of this month, Vietnam Veterans Day.
Is it not important enough to put it under a new business? So, I mean, if it's under consent, nobody's going to.
But you want to read it?
I mean, I just feel like that's more important than being under consent. That's those people that sacrificed a lot for us. I think they need a recognition.
I will.
Okay, we'll put it under new business at number 3.
And I'm sorry, Chairman, what is it called?
Proclamation on Vietnam Veterans.
Oh, my.
It's always the last Thursday in every March, Vietnam Veterans Day. And you got Sarah speaking before Alan? After, okay.
Yes, sir.
Very good, okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we have a copy of that
She's
proclamation.
going to be, is it in the agenda packet? Or are you going to be passing it out?
No, sir, it's not in the agenda packet, but I will have it for you in just a few minutes.
Okay. And we do have some appointments this morning, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and then we're on motion to sell surplus property at Central Heights and Thoroughfare. I thought we tabled that before.
We did table that last month,
Okay.
or last meeting, I'm sorry.
Last meeting. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Present use value, under consent. Are they all good to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Miss Allison, you're up.
First budget amendment I have for you is for Office of Emergency Services, $14,860. This is for the purchase of a fire paging transmitter. For the jetport, we are asking to reallocate funds in the amount of $171,000. This is for the ALP grant. The funds were budgeted in 2 different line items. We typically like to see grant funds budgeted in one line item specifically for the grant, so this will help us track it a little better. For the jetport, we have another budget amendment for the corporate area expansion grant. They received some additional funds, and it requires a 10% match, so we are just asking to use some Eastern Region monies to appropriate for that. And Eastern Region monies available unallocated as of March 16th is, and I believe this will be before this budget amendment, is $20,482.
I knew it had to be running low.
I'd ask her that question.
It's pretty useful for those grants, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
We certainly make a good use of it, that's for sure.
The next budget amendment is for $20,000 for the WCDA Busman building, and this is just to appropriate some funds to offset the just basic maintenance and utility expenditures for that building.
Mr. Haddock, do you know whether the city approved their potentially going in there and renting from us, leasing from us?
We are still.
I think they talked about it.
I think they have talked about it. We're still working on that agreement, and hopefully we'll have that for you at the next meeting.
What was that, Mr. Chairman?
We don't want to leave that building empty down there,
Right.
so the city is considering renting some of the space from Parks and Rec.
Yes, sir.
And not bringing in tractors and that kind of thing, just office space. It's better to have somebody in there than anything just being empty, because somebody will break in there and tear it up. And with the idea that they would have like 30 days to get out if we were able to find someone who wants to
Yes,
do
sir.
it.
It'll show much better with it being occupied.
Yeah. And they'll pay the utilities, you know, anything major that the county would pick up.
And if I remember, we're going to try to work with the community college in regards to the possibility of using their desk and so forth that are in
that are there now.
that are there now.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And going further on that request that they wanted for some of the stuff that we may be throwing out, did we ever have a chance to go through there and look and see what was in there that was usable?
I know we're doing that at the Wayne Center. I don't know if we have done that at
Yeah.
the Busco building.
Remember, there was a list
Yeah.
that they requested.
I'll have to go back.
But that was, we were at David City, that's for not big
Right.
here.
Just put that on your list for your meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, for the 911 fund, this is the unrestricted monies. They are anticipating and appropriating $16,310. This is due to a lightning strike that hit the Grantham Tower site and damaged some equipment. For EMS, we are requesting to reallocate from an existing line item $16,000 to meet the increased expenditure of laundering of sheets for the EMS ambulances. For the health department.
Excuse me a moment.
Yes, sir.
That was for what now?
This is for their laundering of sheets, the service to, they pay for their service to launder sheets for the EMS ambulances for the beds.
The hospital's quit doing it.
Right.
Both, by the way, both Mayo and I spoke with Harkley, Shirley Harkley, who's the person at the hospital that handles all the contracting, and she said that it wouldn't save us any money at all. And did you talk to her, Doug?
I haven't talked to her, but I've heard that.
And I
Yes,
talked
sir.
to her. So I did bring that up at the last hospital board meeting.
But if I'm understanding, if the hospital was providing that at no cost, then next year, we're probably going to be looking at a substantial amount of money to do that. Is that
About
correct?
60,000, yes. sir.
About how much?
60.
Let me hear that again.
60.
Wow.
They're getting theirs from out of Virginia. I couldn't actually, they said the name, but I don't remember what it was. I think we were looking at UniFirst.
We've looked at in-house with existing, we've looked at the hospital, we've looked at throwaway sheets, we've looked at all different types of options, and UniFirst is really the best option that we have at this time.
The prison system's not doing stuff like that anymore.
No, sir. We check with the prisons as well.
Sheriff
The
checked that, too.
Homestead Act of 1974, is that right, Morrison?
The what?
The Homestead Act of 1974
And they just enacting it now?
kind of prohibits us, so.
We're talking about you.
Well, the thing is that just in the normal course of business, our costs go up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
With no fault of anybody's at all, just part of doing business.
And they've already sold all their equipment. They don't have that department anymore.
Is that right?
Hospital.
The hospital, so just out of
They're
the laundry business?
They're out of the laundry business.
Really?
Completely.
Okay.
So the hospital, help me out, the hospital wasn't,
They've been doing it for us for free for how many years, Sheriff? You know?
Wherever and ever.
It's been a long time.
Forever.
so they sold, they got out of business, sold their equipment, and they're going with an independent contract.
That's correct. Which puts us in the same spot. And he had asked me, Joe had asked me to see if we could tag onto their contract to see if we could get any cheaper, but it didn't. It wouldn't be.
Well, I heard, just aside, no, I'll say that comment for my time, never mind. Pardon me.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, we got-
let me have, I'm going to come to the defense of the sheriff here. No, I know the sheriff doesn't need me to come to his defense. But if everyone will recall, when we built the new jail, it was our intention to try to use the laundry facilities there for this very purpose, if it occurred. In talking with the sheriff, he explained to me that there are some other issues that have arisen since then regarding whether or not we could actually do that. You know, we didn't research that at the time. We just thought it was a good idea. But actually, it's impractical, and we can't do that. So that is not an option any longer. So at any rate, I suppose it is just what it is. We're
Yes,
going to
sir.
have to go that route.
Yes, sir. We will always look at trying to, evaluate what our best cost estimate is, but right now, this is what we've come up with.
All right, I'll hush.
Yes, ma'am.
For the health department, they're requesting to reallocate some line items for the minority diabetes prevention program. For solid waste, anticipating and appropriating a little over $15,000 to cover damage due to a fire near the shop area.
Did you say that was the ice machine?
Yes, sir.
Whoa, why are we on that one? Did it damage the structure some or something? I mean,
It damaged, it damaged some of the office area, I believe, and then, of course, they had to reimburse for the ice machine. I think I've got a breakdown some right here. It'll be used to replace the ice machine, printer, cleaning services to clean up from the fire, and then other repairs around that general area.
okay.
For social services, they've received another funding authorization to increase the Share the Warmth program by $191.44. For animal control, there are two here, number 397 and 398. This is to appropriate donations received for ballistic vests, purchase of portable radios, computer equipment, and lettering of a transferred ambulance.
Mr. Chairman, on 398, what was that non-capital equipment? Was that the portable radios?
Let's see. Yes, sir, because I guess they're taking the lettering out of program supplies, and then the computer equipment would be out of 262, so that would leave portable radios out of 261.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, can we pull this one to our next meeting to get time to review this a little more?
It's all right with me. Or is anything critical about this going through today?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay with everyone?
Everybody okay with that?
Second.
Let me chime on that if I can. One of my concerns is, if I'm understanding, this is a budget amendment to pay for the lettering on the amulets.
Yes, sir.
Why is it that I have already seen a picture of the lettering that's done on the amulets on Facebook?
That's a good question. I'll be glad to find out for you.
Well, I'm just asking. I mean, yes, let's do pull it.
Okay. For the, change page. For the library, we're requesting to reallocate $7,200 from salaries and wages to extra help. They've had some vacancies in their two full-time positions, and they've had to cover it with temp services until they could get somebody in there full-time. Another one for the library is for their Smart Start grant funds, and they've just looked at the grant fund deliverables, and they need to reallocate some funds within those grant line items. And then another one for the library is for their Library Services and Technology Act grant. And again, they've just looked at the deliverables to see where they need to spend money in those grant funds, so they're requesting to reallocate to program supplies for it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Now, most of these that we're doing for the library, that's grant money. That's not coming out of our fund balance.
That's right. Now, this last one I just did, 401, that does require a match, but we are able to use the other grant, the Smart Start grant funds, to offset for that match. So they work together well.
The reason I was questioning, we spend a lot of money at the library.
Yeah.
And I will say on, I believe it's the Smart Start, she had a full-time position budget for that, and she's actually been able to find somebody part-time that can still do the same amount of work in less hours. So she's able to use more of the monies for the program supplies and less on salaries. For the 911, this is the restricted monies. They are requesting to use fund balance within that fund, which is Fund 225, to purchase a recording system And this is because the current system is no longer being maintained by the vendor. And I believe they've had several issues with it, is my understanding.
Question.
Yes, sir.
This money that we're spending on equipment like this in the 911 center now, is it going to be transferable to the new one?
Some yes and some no, because we still will have that as our full-time backup, our full-time PSAP backup. So some yes and some no.
So that equipment will not be moved to the new one, it'll just remain where it's at the backup.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Okay. And then our last one is for economic development, asking to appropriate $10,667. This is to pay for a third of the cost of a hotel study. The remaining two-thirds will be covered by the City of Goldsboro and Wayne County Tourism Development Authority.
I got a comment on that too.
I got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead first, then you next.
I just got an issue. We had an agreement with the city. We'd be responsible for building the convention center. We helped them with their event center. We helped them with the sports complex, and we built a $20 million building out there on the corner. And it was their obligation to get the hotel. And I've heard, well, if we do this, we have some skin in the fight. I mean, their event center, the sports complex, and a $20 million building, I think we got about all the skin in the fight that we need. I mean, if y'all feel like we need to do it, fine, and we do need a hotel. But at some point, the city's got to realize that we ain't got so much money in our bucket.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'm sort of piggybacking on Commissioner Aycock. My question is that this study is for a for-profit business. The hotel is going to be a for-profit business. Are we going to circumvent our policies under the WCDA to get, how we're going to get around this? Because I don't believe, Mr. Parker, I don't know if you looked at this or not, but legally, can we do this for a for-profit? Because if we do, we need to, like I've suggested before, we need to change the policy at the WCDA, which I've suggested, to set an investment of $10 million for other businesses, and I'm going to use the Deacon Jones Industrial group out here that's invested $18 million. The question is, are we going to circumvent this ruling that we've had all these years and make an exception here? If we do, we need to change our policies and have some other business. This is a for-profit business, am I right?
The hotel would expect to be for-profit, yes, sir. And the board does have the authority to do that. The board also has the authority to change the policy with respect to whether it's industry or industry and business that you give incentives to. You have the authority to do that, either one that you want to.
Well, I would like to either table this or get some more study on it, because my take at this time is that I'm not going to support this unless we be fair to other businesses that the Deacon Jones group out there has invested $18 million, and we didn't do nothing for them. So that's where my problem is, you understand?
I think there is some difference, though, legally speaking, because this you're doing to try to figure out what is going to be trying to get somebody to come in where without being specific for a specific entity, whereas your policy would be, if I was going to build a hotel and I came in and said, I'm not going to build the hotel if you don't give me $100,000, or if the city doesn't give me the land, or if both of you don't give me a rebate on the taxes. That would be what would be covered by your policy. That policy would not cover this specific item, in my opinion.
Okay, so...
But you could change the policy. The board could change the policy if the board wanted to do that.
Okay, so we could legally approve this, but down the road, if this study that we're doing, this feasibility study, if it says that the county and the city need to put some more skin in the game, more money in order to subsidize this hotel, then we'd be in a different position. Is that right?
Almost assuredly what you're saying is correct. And I think that one of the reasons, if you were giving an incentive or proposing to give an incentive for somebody, you have to have a public hearing to get input from the public. You really do not have to have a public hearing to adopt this budget amendment.
Right. And Commissioner, what the purpose of this study is really to do some data diving, because before most hoteliers can make a business decision if it's feasible or not feasible, there's a lot of different variables that they have to look at. So basically with this study, this will give them that basic information on rates and events and those type things that make up their due diligence and seeing if it is cost feasible for them to even consider building there or not. So we're paying for just the study to say, here, hotelier, this will work for you, or here, hotelier, this will not work for you. So we're just really trying to dive into the data, dive into the daily rates, dive into occupation or occupancy rates to see what is feasible and what is not feasible for that site, because there's a lot of different price points, a lot of different styles of hotels that may or may not be a good fit for that corner. So we're trying to take that guesswork out for the hoteliers or the investors when they come in to say, we've done that due diligence for you, now you have to make your business decision.
Mr. Chairman. Yes. I get all that, but why wasn't this done a year ago when the first shovel of dirt was turned out there at that Maxwell Center? Why wasn't this process started by the city then? I buy what it's about, but my question is, why wasn't it done then? I mean, I'm not saying I vote against this now, but I just want some explanation. There's just been some feet dragging or something. I just got an issue with it.
And I fully understand your concern on that. I think part of it is we didn't know, and I don't think the city knew as well what
that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, we needed to do to move forward. I think we originally thought that if you built the Maxwell Center, they will come. And we've kind of figured out that they're not going to come unless we provide them some assurances, and especially with a reputable company that can say, you can make money at this site.
Well, and I kind of disagree with that. I mean, the Maxwell Center's been built. I mean, they sitting there saying, they got to have us now. We can choke them all we want to. I mean, am I wrong on this?
Let me just share this small point of view. Based upon what Mr. Craig said, a lot of this we had not been discussed on the front end, and I think everybody thought a hotel would rush in here. Now, getting back to I read that article, and that's the first time I probably heard as much about it. But I sort of saw the work that's going to be done as something that not would just be used with that hotel, but it sounded like it would glean information that would help us to interpret other things. Unforeseen. All of you have seen cars sitting beside the road and you knew somebody was counting traffic. That's sort of an archaic way of doing it, I'm pretty sure. But let's not shoot this down because we didn't think of it before. I think we need to, some things we just got to move forward on. And I hear the concern. I absolutely do. I don't want anyone to take us for granted, but at some point, and I know it sounds like some extra cooperation, but this is information that I believe will benefit all of us, and you may need to have some of that very information on decisions that you'll make down the road. Where the Maxwell Center is concerned, if you were deciding to do something, I'm not talking about maybe this board, but down the road a ways, information is information, and we store it and use it down the road.
You know, I want to be careful how I say this, but I think the city will acknowledge that they have dropped the ball on this. And I got in some hot water by making a statement publicly that the Maxwell Center needed that hotel and was vital for the success of the Maxwell Center. Well, maybe I overestimated that, but it is. The hotel is important to our economically viable convention center. We met with the city and basically said, you need to get off your duff and you need to go ahead and move forward. Now, in doing so, we reached out and found that actually they were using their internal data that they created to try to market to hotelers to come here and invest. Well, you can't use that. You've got to use this study coming from one of these hotel consulting firms that is widely accepted within the industry. So if I'm a hoteler, I'm not going to do anything unless I've got this report. This report should have been done a year or two ago. It should have. But it wasn't. So here we're faced with a situation that this is expensive. It's $30-some-odd thousand. We have to have it. It even was explained to us that the hoteler actually has to have that report to go and get the financing. You got to have this report. So it's darn if you do and darn if you don't type situation. And so in moving forward, we're ready to go ahead. We've reached out. We've done the research with the consultants. We now have a consultant that we feel very secure that will come to Goldsboro and actually produce the data we need. Actually, she's got some ties to Goldsboro, even though she's out in Denver, Colorado. But we have to have that report. So we felt like in order to move forward to where we can execute this contract, if the county would put in a third, if travel and tourism would put in a third, and the city put in a third, we felt like that we could go ahead and have the funding to do it now. Now, that said, we could go back to the drawing board. We don't have to. We don't have to participate. And I agree with you. This is the responsibility of the city. But it was, do we wait to get that entire funding from the city, or do we find a way to go ahead and get it going now? And that's kind of where we at.
Well,
so maybe that gives you a little bit more insight.
Does. And like I say, I didn't say I wasn't going to vote for it, but I just wanted some clarification. You just clarified it. And if you ever lose your job, you can get a job selling used cars.
Well, and I agree with you. You know, is it actually for profit? It's a study. If we're going to get a hotel, we're going to have this study.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not saying I'm not going to vote against it either. What I want to be clear that we treat everyone across the board that's in a for-profit business the same way. That was my concern.
And I'll be very honest, if it was not adjacent and part of the Maxwell Center site, we would not make this recommendation.
That's exactly what I was going to say, and Joe explained it very well from our meetings with the city.
Yeah.
This completes a project for us, and it's very important.
Right.
Okay.
And we negotiated.
If they would have come and said, we need to look at downtown, we would like for you to do a hotel study, the answer would have been no. But if they're saying, we need this to move forward for the Maxwell Center, for the property, and be very site-specific, then that's where we came up with the recommendation.
Okay, are we going to vote on this, or are we going to table it, or what?
I say we vote on it.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion that we do.
We can't do it until we get.
Oh, that's right, we ain't. Okay. I'm putting the horse before the cart before the horse.
Hopefully that was the last one of these.
The next is about our property and casualty insurance. You want to, Chris, or we just wait?
You do have a recommendation in your package. We've been working with Essex, thank you, Consulting and we have rebid out our property and casualty. We would like to recommend staying with BB&T and V3, I always say the name wrong, V31. Joe Gurley, please say that for me.
VFIS.
VFIS. I am technically challenged on acronyms, who is our current provider now. So even with the additions of the Maxwell Center, even with the addition of the additional vehicles, we're still getting a cheaper rate with BB&T, and so we make that recommendation.
That's BB&T and Code 3?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
VFIS. I said it right that time.
Very good. Okay. Then we're going to have, I guess we have a proclamation for the Organ Donor Month.
Yes, and my understanding is that Dr. Sandra will be here.
Was she planning on reading the proclamation, do you know?
That was my understanding, that she was planning on reading.
If she doesn't, I know that Mr.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
No, that's on the organ donation. You were going to read the one on the veterans. Okay.
Okay, then 2 is a resolution to support a statewide referendum on the bond issue for school needs.
Have you got
Everything in my pack on that.
Okay. As the board's aware, the General Assembly is considering a statewide referendum for K through 12 for school construction. And what this resolution does is offer our support of getting this on the ballot.
Okay. And then we'll have the Vietnam's Veterans Day proclamation that Mr. Mayo will read. Then we'll have a work session on proposed flood ordinances, and I guess Mr. Crumpler is going to be in charge of that.
Yes, sir.
We'll just wait till we get there. Any comments, reports? And we do need a closed session for what reason?
Yes, sir. One, to discuss matters with me that require attorney-client privilege, to discuss the possible purchase of property and the terms of that, and to discuss the competence and fitness of a public officer or employee.
Is there a motion to go in closed session?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion?